Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to look at some more new cards today. I know yesterday we just looked at some new cards that got revealed last weekend, but of course we did get even more new cards revealed last night, and the rest of the cards in Mask of Change have been officially revealed. So we're going to look at all of the new cards revealed in today's video. We got some brand new EX cards. One of them looks pretty scary. We got a brand new spec card, of course. This also could be the final spec card we do receive. So we'll have to find out how it all goes. Again, these cards are going to be in Japan's Mask of Change set and in our May set Twilight Masquerade. So all of these cards will be coming out in a month from now. So I'm excited to take a look at them all. And if y'all are new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 14,000 subs. Leave a like on the video if you want to enjoy. I'll leave a link to PokeBeach here, the site I am using for today's video, to look at all of the new cards. Now, we're going to have to just scroll through and find the new cards, but like I said, we did get some brand new cards revealed nonetheless. Of course, Mask of Change will be out next Friday in Japan, but we will be getting Twilight Masquerade, sorry, in May. It's going to have Crimson Haze and Mask of Change, so I'm excited for that. So we have looked at a lot of these new cards already, but of course there are still some new ones that got revealed. So I don't think there's any new grass cards. There's a new Trevenant. I don't think that's like new or anything. Going to the fire Pokemon, nothing too new here. We do see a new Poliwrath. This actually did get revealed the other day. It does have a jumping uppercut for a double colorless energy, or double turbo, does 120 damage, and if you may do 120 more damage, and if you do, you can shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into your deck. So you can do 240 damage, and then you can put the Poliwrath back in your deck. I'm not too sure how good this will be, because obviously Poliwrath is a stage 2. Now, we could get a good Politoed, though. There is hope for a Politoed that does synergize nicely, because usually when we get these Poly cards in the format, we end up actually getting a pretty decent Politoed card to go with them, so we could see something similar at some point that maybe gives this card a little bit more power, because I feel like that attack is really good, but having to put the Poliwrath back in the deck is a bit of a downside, so maybe there is a new Politoed, and that does make it pretty good. So, let's move on here. There's a new Jinx here, Inviting Kiss. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it on your bench, and then shuffle your deck. Move an energy from this Pokemon to that Pokemon. Now, that's a really interesting attack. We haven't really seen an attack like that before on a basic Pokemon grabbing attack. I mean, we've seen these like setup attacks before, but we've never seen it, you know, getting energy on that Pokemon from the active. So you put an energy on your Jinx, you grab a basic, and then you put the energy on your Jinx to the basic Pokemon. Honestly, not a bad attack. I mean, that does power up that Pokemon. This is actually not a bad attack in theory. I mean, imagine even playing this in like an Arceus deck. With that turn 1 Arc energy, you just go Jinx, attached, Arc, move the energy to the Arc. I don't know. There's some really cool synergies you can do with this Jinx. I actually don't think this card is bad at all. Is it going to be like a great setup card? Probably not, because you're only getting one basic at the end of the day. The only other setup card I can think of that ever sees play was the Hisuian Basculin, and that was for 0 energy and grab 2 basic Pokemon. You can kind of see why Jinx might be a little weaker, but the attack is good because you at least can get an energy in play. You basically conserve the energy on your Jinx, because most of the time when you do this attack, you're probably going to get knocked out anyway, so you might as well save the energy. So it is kind of cool. It's not a bad card, and I don't know, there could be some niche plays for this Jinx. We've already looked at all these cards, obviously. New Iron Bundle Future card. I don't think I've looked at this yet, but it's nothing too special. It has Enerjet, does 60 damage, and then you switch it with one of your bench Pokemon, and then if you do, switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. So, it's kind of mediocre, nothing too crazy, even for a future Pokemon. Now, here's where things get crazy and a little scary. We have a brand new Luxray EX. Now, Luxray EX Luxray, I should say, has had some pretty good cards in the past. We already have 2 very strong Luxrays in the format, and this one might be a really good control card. So it's got the attack Piercing Glint. Now, this is its main attack, in my opinion anyways. It does 120 damage. You look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card you find there. That is pretty scary, I'm not going to lie. Now, it's not like you're discarding an item or a trainer card like Luxray V does. Luxray V's got that Fang Snipe attack where you can discard a trainer you find, so you can get rid of a supporter or an item. This just flat out discards any card you find there, which is really good. You can discard energy, Pokemon, items, supporters, whatever. You can discard it with Piercing Glint, and that is a pretty good attack. Now, obviously, what makes this good is the hand disruption we have in the format. If you pair this with Roxanne, Iono, even if you pair this with the new spec card, Unfair Stamp, you have yourself a pretty annoying hand lock card, because odds are you draw 2 cards off an Unfair Stamp. One of the cards probably will be okay, but then Luxray can discard it. The fact that it can discard anything is what makes this card good. Now, the one upside to Luxray is that it is a Stage 2 Pokemon, so it is a little bit slower to get out into play, obviously. You do have to use Rare Candy I'm pretty sure there's no more Luxio in the format. There used to be a Luxio from Rebel Clash that let you cheat it out a little bit earlier in the game, but you probably will have to go Rare Candy Luxray to get this thing out. It does have another attack, Volt Strike, that does 250 damage. You discard all energy from it. Honestly, not a bad attack either. 250 is pretty good numbers to hit. And for 2 energy, it's not bad. It's not that hard to build up. So yeah, I could actually see Luxray being a pretty playable card. Now, that first attack is the main kind of trait about this Luxray. And the main thing that makes Luxray look good is that Piercing Glint attack. Again, being able to discard a card from your opponent's hand by choice is pretty good. You can combine that with Unfair Stamp, Roxanne. You could play it with like Eerie or Grabber too to like make your opponent have no cards in their hand if you put their hand down super low. So definitely a really powerful card in my opinion. I don't know how good it's actually going to be, but it seems like it could be a good card. It could be its own like control disruption deck. And yeah, I'm pretty scared, man. This Luxray is looking pretty scary. Not gonna lie. All right, next up we do have a new Kilowattrel here. I don't think I've looked at this yet. It's got Wind Charge. During your next turn, this Pokemon's attacks do 120 more damage to their active. I mean, yeah, you can do, what, 220 with Strong Volt. I mean, I don't think it's going to survive a hit, though. You're probably never going to really get to use Wind Charge, unfortunately, and then, attack again. There's a new Chimecho here we haven't looked at. It does have the attack Homecoming Chime. Shuffle one of your bench Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into your deck. So you do effectively get to heal something. It's not like you just heal the Pokemon. You just flat out get to put it back in your deck. I don't know how good that really is, though. It is on a basic, though, so it's like really easy to kind of utilize this attack, considering you can also use it with a double turbo. Maybe this could see play in like a control stall deck. If you have like a really tanky Pokemon that's like heavily damaged, instead of like Turoing it or pennying it, you can just like Homecoming Chime it, but you have to put it back into your deck, so I don't know. It's very nice that the attack's on like a basic and can be used for a double turbo, so it's really easy to pull this attack off, but I'm not too sure the Chimecho is gonna be very playable, unfortunately. So we have seen a lot of these new cards. Read up on the Conkeldurr already. New Glamora here. We might have read this already, but we'll read it anyways. It's got Stun Poison, flip a coin of heads. Your opponent's active is now paralyzed and poisoned, and then you have Venoshock. If your opponent's active is already poisoned, you do 100 more damage. So for one fighting, you can do decent damage. You do have Sneasler, Perilous Jungle, and Brute Bonnet or Clodsire EX to poison your opponent. So there you go. We do have some brand new dark Pokemon here, which are looking pretty good. We got a brand new Mightyena, which is actually looking kind of decent. So it's got the attack Pack Outing, which for one dark energy does 30 damage and then does 90 more damage for each of your benched Mightyena. So if all 3 Mightyenas are on your bench, you can do 300 damage for 1 energy. That is pretty good, I'm not going to lie. 300 damage is a lot of damage to do, obviously. Now, the problem with this is that there is no real good way to consistently do 300 damage, I don't think. Because you're going to have 4 Poochyenas into 4 Mightyenas. Your active Mightyena is going to get knocked out. You got to promote a Mightyena. And you're not going to be able to get another Mightyena into play because you have to bench a Poochyena and then wait another turn, which is the downside of this attack. So you might only get like 1 turn to do 300 damage, and then after that you're doing, what, 210 damage? If only Phantom Transformation Zoroark still existed. This would have been like the perfect partner for Zoroark, but unfortunately we did lose Zoroark, so Zoroark Mightyena will not be a deck. Maybe an expanded will be a deck, but unfortunately Mightyena just won't be able to reach its full potential because Zoroark did rotate. It would have been really cool to have Zoroark. It would have made this card a lot more easier to play because, like I said, you might only get like 1 turn to do Pack Outing, and then after that you're probably going to be doing 210 damage every turn, which still isn't like bad or anything, but it's like 300 damage is obviously way better on a Mightyena. All right, we do have a brand new Scolipede here. This might actually be the first like playable Scolipede we've actually gotten. I don't know if we've ever had a Scolipede ever be good before. Now, this one does have the unfair game attack. You put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10. We've seen this before on other, cards before. It's one of those, you put your opponent down to 10 HP remaining, and then you poison them in the same turn, and then you instantly knock them out in that turn. That's basically what the Scolipede is doing. Now, Scolipede is a Stage 2 Pokemon, so it's a bit slower than stuff like Alolan Raticate, but it only needs 2 energy. You can easily Dark Patch to it, and you can also use Reversal Energy still to power this thing up. And it does have 170 HP. It also has another attack, Sludge Bomb, that does 160 damage. So honestly, it's not a terrible card. I mean, again, this is like actually the first like somewhat playable Scolipede we've ever had. I don't think we've ever had a decent Scolipede before, and this one might be the first ever Scolipede that is actually kind of decent. Again, you compare this with Brute Bonnet, with the Ancient Booster Capsule to do the poison combo. Yeah, it's basically just going to be like the new age of like poison insta-KO decks, which is kind of cool nonetheless, so it is cool to see them bring that back with Scolipede. There's a new Brute Bonnet here. I don't think I read this in my last video, but it does have the attack Rattling Strike, which for 3 dark energy, which is a lot of energy, though keep in mind it is ancient, does 50 damage, and then does 50 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So not a bad attack to finish off your opponent. If your opponent has quite a bit of damage on their active, this thing is going to easily knock them out. Even if they have like 100 damage on them, this attack is just going to absolutely destroy your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, the downside is you do need 3 dark energy. The upside is Brute Bonnet is ancient and dark, so you can use Dark Patch and Professor Sawdust Vitality to build it up. You just have to figure out a way to get damage on to your opponent's Pokemon for the attack to actually work. And that's the upside, or the I don't know. That's the kicker with it, I should say. We do have a new Heatran here. It does have the attack Incandescent Body, which I probably butchered that. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's knocked out, the attacking Pokemon is now burned. Pretty, like, okay ability. I mean, you get extra damage on the board if it gets attacked. Its attack isn't terrible, though. It's got Steel Burst, doing 50 damage. You discard all metal energy attached to this Pokemon, and it does 50 damage for each card discarded in this way. So you just put a bunch of metal energies on it, you discard all of them, and then you do big damage with Heatran. You do need to discard a lot of energy to do big damage, like, you know, basically like Goldengo in a way, right? You're doing 50 times for each energy discarded. This card could be okay with, like, Metang. That's probably the best way to play this Heatran. If you want to make this Heatran where you can play with Metang, the one thing I will say is if you do a ton of damage, like, so let's say you do, 300 damage with Steel Burst, because you can burn the opponent if they attack you, you can finish them off with your ability instead of, discarding that 1 extra metal energy off of Heatran. So we'll have to see how this card ends up doing. Again, it could be really interesting with Metang as, like, a meme deck. Probably more for, like, a bad deck Friday deck, to be honest. Friday obviously looked at the new Dragapult, new Tatsugiri, Blissey we looked at. There's a new Ambipom. Now this kind of might be pretty good with Luxray EX. So it's got the ability Wicked Tail. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, during your turn you may flip 2 coins. For each head, choose a random card from your opponent's hand, and then your opponent reveals that card and shuffles it into their deck. So this is a pretty annoying ability. Now obviously it is only when you play it from your hand to evolve your Apom, so it's only like a one-time use. Obviously, there's no more Scoop Up Net in the format. However, there is Scoop Up Cyclone, which is getting reprinted, so you could play Scoop Up Cyclone as your A-Spec with Ambipom. You could pick up your Ambipom, bench it, flip 2 coins, and then do that. If there is some way you can get the Scoop Up Cyclone back, like maybe Floatzel, you can play a Floatzel Ambipom Handlock deck. That could be kind of dirty. You can, like, keep reusing Scoop Up Cyclone over and over again with the effect of Floatzel. There you go. There's your new big deck right there. Floatzel Ambipom to loop Scoop Up Cyclone. Now, yeah, this card could be good with Luxray EX. I mean, you can put your opponent's hand down low, and then you can Ambipom them, and then Luxray them in the same turn, and potentially put them to a 0-card hand. I mean, literally, if you, like, unfair stamp them, bench Ambipom, do the ability, even just flipping a 1 heads, and then you Luxray that other card away, they have a 0-card hand. You immediately put them in top deck mode. So this Ambipom is kind of annoying. I don't think it's, like, amazing because there's really no way to, like, reuse it over and over again other than with Scoop Up Cyclone. Again, there could be, like, a weird Floatzel Ambipom hand control deck in the future, but this definitely could be decent with the new Luxray EX. Yeah, Pokemon really want hand control to come back, apparently, with Luxray and Ambipom and Unfair Stamp. Very interesting stuff being printed in this set for sure. All right, and here is the brand new A-Spec card, Secret Box. So discard 3 cards from your hand in order to use this card. So right off the bat, it does have a pretty big kicker. Having to discard 3 cards is a lot. But you do get to search your deck for an item, a tool, a supporter, and a stadium, and put it into your hand. So despite having to do that effect, you do get a ton of Pokemon search. Getting an item, a tool, a supporter, and a stadium is pretty nutty. Like, imagine what you can grab. You can grab, like, a Body Poffin, a Choice Belt. You can grab an Iono/Boss, a Research, and then you grab, like, a Stadium. The Stadium effect might not be as useful right now. Like, I don't know, maybe you're going to grab, like, an Artisan or something, but still a very powerful effect that you can do a lot with. Now, how good would this card really be is going to be the question, because you do have to discard 3 cards from your hand, which is a big downside. Because, like, if this is in your opening hand and you want to use it to set up, you got to get rid of 3 cards in your hand. And honestly, that might be a bit of a trade-off. Like, there's times where you don't even want to play Ultra Ball to discard cards from your hand, let alone playing Secret Box. So I'm not sure this card is actually going to be that good. I've seen some people maybe talk about playing it within Lugia, so maybe this card could be good within Lugia. We'll have to see. It is definitely a very interesting A-Spec. But let me know what decks you think could play Secret Box. I definitely think it is a very interesting A-Spec card that does have the potential to see play, but compared to the other ace specs we have in the format, I don't know what decks will actually enjoy playing this card because, well, it is a very strong search card, a very banana search card. It is an item card too, like an item that grabs a supporter, an item, a tool. The stadium is bananas. Again, the downside is you do have to discard 3 cards, and maybe that downside is the thing holding this card back from being good. So we'll have to see if Secret Box ends up seeing play with any deck. I do think that every ace spec at some point will probably see play in a deck, so I'm sure somebody will use Secret Box, but it's definitely very interesting nonetheless. All right, we did get a new, there's a new tool here, Handy Fan. So whenever the active Pokemon this card's attached to takes damage from an opponent's attack, you move an energy from the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it is one of those like annoying like abilities or attacks where you like move an energy from the active to the bench, kind of like Gengar EX, for example, right? Gengar EX's attack does kind of that same thing where you move an energy from their active to the bench. And this card definitely is a very interesting card because it is a very annoying card to play against. Decks like Charizard EX will not enjoy having their energy moved onto the bench. Like, imagine they have a Manaphy or like a Cleffa in play or something, and you just constantly move the energy to that Pokemon. That could get pretty annoying, I'm not going to lie. So it's definitely an interesting tool card. I could actually see this seeing a little bit of play, maybe within a control deck. Imagine putting this on that Cloth EX. So Cloth EX sees a bit of play within Pidgeot control right now, because against Charizard, you put the Cloth in the active spot. Every time Charizard attacks it, they discard an energy card. It's one way to run them out of energy. Imagine having Handy Fan on top of the Cloth in the active spot. Your opponent has to lose 2 energy every time they attack you, which is kind of crazy, to be honest. So definitely a very interesting tool card for sure. And I definitely think it could be an interesting one to take a look at in the future. Maybe you can play this with like a Pokemon like Reverum EX, have like 4 of these on, and like your opponent loses 4 energy every time they attack you. That could be pretty funny. So definitely a very interesting tool. I think it actually isn't bad at all. It could be an annoying tool, and it could be good for like more of like control decks, and could be very annoying for decks like Charizard to deal with. And then we've looked at most of these cards already. I haven't looked at Hassle yet, I don't think. So you can play this card only if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. And you can look at the top 8 cards of your deck, put 3 of them in your hand, and then shuffle the rest into your deck. That's not a bad supporter effect. Now, it is one of those something has to get knocked out. So I wouldn't call it like better than like Raihan, obviously, but getting to look at the top 8 cards ain't terrible. I mean, maybe in the the later stages of the game when your deck's a little bit more thinner, there's a good chance this card will grab you more stuff. Now, at that point though, what will you really want to grab that can help you? Again, you can't use this card to get energy in play like you could with Raihan or Mela even. Obviously, you're not going to be able to like do boss in the same turn. Like maybe you could play counter catcher. So I don't know. It's a very interesting supporter. It could see a little bit of play. It does have a very decent effect. I mean, getting 3 cards is pretty good, but you're limited. You can only look at the top 8 cards. You're limited to what you can see. So that might be the one thing holding this card back. And we've looked at all those. So yeah, those are all the cards in Mask of Change. Yeah, the new Secret Box is definitely very interesting. We'll have to see if it sees play again. Let me know in the comments what you think it'll see play with. That new tool card, Handy Fan, could be kind of decent too. And then, of course, the Luxray EX was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The Luxray EX is kind of scary. With the Ambipom and the Luxrays and the Handy Fan, Pokemon really want you to not play the game. So we'll have to see if this Luxray ends up seeing play, because I think it is a very strong card. I mean, that first attack is pretty scary, and even the second attack has potential. But we have some more new cards to look at. We got some new gym promo cards to look at here, starting off with a brand new EX card, a brand new Kilowattrel EX. So it has 260 HP, Evolves from Wattrel. It's got 2 attacks. You got Return Charge for 1 Lightning Energy. Switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, and then attach up to 2 light energy from your hand to this Pokemon. So, not a bad attack. I mean, pair this with like Fluttermane or Klefki or something, or Mimikyu, and you could probably go into like a wall for a turn, and then go back into Kilowattrel, and then do your second attack, Thunder Lance, which for 2 colorless energy does 40 damage, and then does 40 more damage for each lightning energy attached to this Pokemon. So, of course, you put a bunch of energy onto your Kilowattrel, and you hit really, really hard, and you can do quite a bit of damage. So Kilowattrel is definitely a pretty powerful card that I think could see some minor little bits of play, because it is a lightning Pokemon. Obviously, you can play it with Electric Generator. You could play this with like EXP shares and stuff to kind of like loop Kilowattrel. Again, a card that would have benefited greatly from having Flaffy in the format. This card obviously would have liked to see Flaffy. But yeah, not the worst card ever. Not the best EX, but not the worst EX either. Again, if Flaffy existed, it would have been kind of nice. We got a new Scrafty here, which is kind of interesting. It's got the attack Snatch. For each of your bench Pokemon, search your deck for a card and put it in your hand. So if you fill your entire bench up, right, you can grab 5 cards out of your deck every single turn, which is kind of crazy. Not gonna lie, that is kind of crazy. That's a very strong effect. Now, this could be good as like a setup attack, or it could be pretty good as a control style attack. We've seen this before with like Sylveon GX, where you grab like 3 cards out of your deck and put them in your hand. So this could be like a similar type of strategy. It is a very interesting attack nonetheless. It might be a little bit too slow nowadays for like an attack like this to probably be very good, but it could be a good setup attack. If you don't get Iono'd, I mean, you could do a lot with this attack. I mean, grabbing potentially up to 5 cards of your choice into your hand for the following turn does set you up pretty nicely for the rest of the game. So definitely a very interesting attack that could be kind of cool. We got the final card here to look at. Lottery Stick. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You reveal any number of supporter cards you find there, and then put them in your hand. So it's kind of like a weaker but better Pokegear, sort of. So Pokegear does let you look at the top 7 cards, grab a supporter. Pokegear is good when you're looking for a specific supporter card. Like when you're digging for Sada or Colress specifically, Pokegear is really good to do that because you get to see more cards. Lottery Stick is only 4 cards, but you do get to grab any number of supporter cards you find there. So you could, in theory, get like a couple of supporters off of Lottery Stick every single turn. I don't know how good this is because, well, it is a nice effect, and I don't know, maybe one day if like Pokegear leaves us and they don't reprint it, maybe this will see play over Pokegear, I guess. But the downside is you put a bunch of supporters in your hand, and then you get Iono'd, and it's like rip. This card probably gets like belittled by the new Tatsugiri, which is probably just a better version to find your supporter cards anyway. So I'm not too sure this Lottery Stick is very good. It's a cool card, but it's kind of like trumped by Pokegear and even the new Tatsugiri, which is going to be a very powerful card in the format. But those are all the new gym promo cards that got revealed, and all of the remaining masks have changed. We got some new Lightning type EXs, some new control cards. Very interesting stuff. It did get revealed. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below. And that'll be for me on today's video here looking at the new cards. I'll leave a link to Poke Beach down below if you want to go look at all these new cards for yourself and all that good stuff. And yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think of them down below in the comments below. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below and all that good stuff. And I'll see you all on another video here on the second channel. Bye-bye.